The Colfax City Council meeting of February 25th is now in session. Let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, can you please take roll?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Burris. Present. Councilmember Douglas. Absent. Councilmember Lohman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hilberg.
Here.
Mayor McCauley.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda order, please?
Move to approve. A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nobody opposed? Okay, agenda order has been approved. All right, do we have any new statements for conflict of interest? Anybody come into a windfall, donate, somebody gave you $1 million out of the blue? No? Yeah, trying, but it's not working too far. All right, so our consent calendar, all items listed on our consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be approved in one blanket motion with a council vote unless a council member or a member of the public requests to pull an item from consent for discussion. Items pulled will be addressed after council completes the consent calendar vote and will require a separate motion. Are there any items the council or the public would like to pull? No? Okay, fantastic. So can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as?
I move to approve. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Nobody opposed? Motion passes. Fantastic. All right. I like it when let's keep moving on. All right, we're going to agency reports. So I will invite you up, Mr. Sheriff. Yes, please join us.
Good evening. How are you today? Good, good, good. Sergeant Toby Williams, Placer County Sheriff's Office. Don't have very much compared to last meeting's statistics and whatnot. I was just informed that a FedEx truck was stolen in Colfax sometime earlier today. I've been in training all day, so I'll have to look into that and see if I can't provide you something the next go around. We're working with the mayor with the Big Boy event that's coming up in April. So we're taking steps next week and in the following week to meet up with UP, Union Pacific Railroad, and hopefully CAL FIRE, and figure out what we're going to do in place for contingencies and things like that. Finally, I mentioned several weeks ago that we had secured a grant to promote some extra traffic enforcement for the city of Colfax in conjunction with the town of Loomis. We've had a couple of shifts that have taken place with the enforcement up here, and we've nailed pretty close to a dozen speeding tickets during those two shifts total. Most of them right now have been up near the Red Frog. So people are actually starting to pay attention when they see us kind of parked up in near 174. They're starting to slow down a lot. So hopefully as the word gets out and speeding tickets get given out, then we can slow some of that down. We also have a new team, if you will, that's been put together by the sheriff. It's called a special response team. It's in place of our problem-oriented policing, or POP team. They work with the transient population, but in addition, they also do special tasks as designated by the sheriff and our patrol captain, to include warrants. They provide extra staffing for events, so we might see them come with the Big Boy event, depending on their calendar. But they're kind of a catch-all team, a Swiss Army knife, so to speak. So you probably will be seeing some of them in social media, or at least hearing of them in social media as they get going. But this is their first official month being out on the street. So pretty excited in what they have to offer. And they've done quite a bit for us already. So any questions? Sir. Nevada County. My team specifically, no. Our Tahoe folks were predominantly the responders to that one. So they would be the ones, if there are any questions, I can direct those, but
Just curious.
we do. Sure. Yeah, no, we do. The way it also contracts is they contract with us for coroner services. So our office is directly related because of the victims and the autopsies and things like that. So. Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, CHP.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Officer Jason Lyman, California Highway Patrol, Gold Run Area Public Information Officer. I don't really have a whole lot going on. I've been on vacation ever since the last meeting and I just came back today. So I missed out on the big storm and all the problems that came with that. But if anybody has any questions for me, I'm open.
I don't have any questions, and since you're not up to date on everything, I do want to acknowledge you guys had some officers in downtown today, keeping an eye on our stop signs and whatnot, so I greatly appreciate that. It definitely helped because they said, no, they could see people doing a second glance and deciding they wanted to do a full stop at the stop sign, so that was appreciated. And while it's not you in the Gold Run office, because we all are highly entertained by Truckee. If you didn't know, the Truckee CHP officer actually got a social media award for the individuals who run their social media, and they put a thing out at it. I thought it was recognizable because they are awesome and they do a good job keeping
Yeah,
it
they
up.
do a great
So-
job.
And in reality, I think you guys did a great job on the storm. There was very little issues whatsoever. I know they were nailing the truckers left and right for not having chains and stuff, so we appreciate it greatly.
Thank you. Anything
Yeah, I
else?
just want to second that because I noticed specifically we had a few truckers that were just deciding that the right-hand turn lane off of the overpass at Canyon was a parking spot. And I did see the officers out there, having people get out of their trucks and educating them and sending them on their way to find more appropriate parking. So that was
Yeah.
appreciated.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Placer County Fire, Cal.
Good evening, Clint Siebert, Battalion Chief for Placer County Fire, Cal Fire. For us, on this last meeting, due to it was an on-duty injury for one of our firefighters that does work here locally. He was injured returning from a training going home in a traffic accident. So I was at the hospital for the last 2 weeks assisting him and his family. Good news is he was able to leave the hospital yesterday, and so he's on his long road to recovery. It will take some time, but he is at home now, which is good. So we got him going. For us last month, since I wasn't able to give those stats for Station 30, we did have 3 vegetation fires, 3 structure fires, 2 vehicle fires, 39 medical aids throughout Colfax for a total of 78 calls last month. For hiring for us, we are doing a lot of hiring. There's a lot of changes with us still going on, and there's more surprises every week. The good news is that we're hiring more firefighter 2s, which is our permanent firefighter 1. So throughout NEU, the unit as a whole, we're getting a total eventually of 32 firefighter 2s, which is permanent firefighters throughout the unit. So that's huge news for us. It's something that wasn't really counted on and kind of just got dropped in our lap this year. So that's good. We were able to promote Chief Ryan Wosner, who was working in the OES department here. He is now our O1, so our operations chief, second in charge for the whole unit. So we're excited to have him on board as well. And there's more to come with more hiring that's going to follow with that. So handful more positions to hire and hire up and more to follow with that. For us, we are working on various fuel reduction projects. You have seen us out on our social media accounts. We've been out the wastewater treatment plant doing fuel treatment out there. And it's more just maintenance on the VMPs or the broadcast burns we have done out there. And so we're out preparing for hopefully more this spring to kind of keep tabs on all the growth that's been happening out there the last 2 years since the last time we burned it, or I think it was roughly 5 years now. But we're working on those with other various burn projects planned throughout the spring in the area. So just know we are working on those. We just have to wait for the weather to cooperate with us. So any questions for us? Thank you.
Okay, nonprofits. Aaron, you waiting for yours? All right, I'm gonna switch seats then. will be official and switch seats. So at this point, it's Caroline with Colfax Railroad Days. And as the sheriff did allude, and you found out on social media yesterday, we've always known that the big boy 4014 with Union Pacific was going to do a coast-to-coast tour this year in celebration of the country's 250th. And we were waiting breathlessly for them to make the official announcement, and that is that it will be stopping in Colfax again, and it will stop. Sunday, April 12th is going to be the day that it stops, and we have the extreme honor of getting a longer stop than most people. We are now scheduled for a 45-minute stop, not a 15-minute whistle stop with Union Pacific. So we have worked really hard to build that relationship with them, and it's paying off. So we will do it as a full event. We're going to have food and bathrooms and music and a couple of vendors out there. It'll be from 10 to 1:30 is the event time, and they just told me this morning about the extra 15 minutes. So Big Boy will either be here at 11:45 or 12, and then 45 minutes after that. But we are expecting just as big, if not a better crowd than we had last year, which the estimate from the sheriff last year was we had about 6,000 people that came up to see it. But with making sure that it's going to have a stop and a longer stop, we should be able to get a bigger crowd in here as well. So we're looking forward to it, and absolutely thank the city and all of our extra agencies for helping us to keep everybody safe when this giant machine comes through. So thank you. Okay, we have no presentations this evening. Yes.
Did you have one other nonprofit?
I don't think, did we have any other nonprofits? Nope, okay.
Sorry.
It's fine. So our next item is a public hearing on the mitigation impact fees annual report. City manager, will you please kick us off?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's been a while. From this report, council is to determine whether the mitigation impact fee amounts continue to be reasonably related to the impact of development. The city maintains separate funds for each of the mitigation fee types. The funds established in balances as of June 30th of 2025 are roads. The balance there right now is 26,368.33. Drainage, 25,533.91. Trails, 83,751.13. Parks and Recreation, 208,549.31. City Buildings, 83,155.65. City Vehicles, 26,558.25. Downtown Parking, 46,557.57. Fire and Recreation Construction Fees, 102,697.35. This is a total of $705,869 in total mitigation fees. These funds accumulate interest. All of the expenditures are for the purpose of each of what the fees are collected for. There were no expenditures in the fiscal year 24-25. Staff recommends accepting and approving the annual AB 1600 mitigation fee report and making findings pursuant to Colfax Municipal Code Chapter 3.56 and the Mitigation Fee Act, and adopt the next resolution in order. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you. We'll start with, do we have any questions or comments from the public? And if you do have any, please come up so we can get you on the record from the microphone. No. All right, council, questions, comments? No.
I have one. Is it limited to capital expenditures or general use, or?
not general use, each one of the fees collected for each of the categories that I listed has to be used for construction, improvement, expansion of those items.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll be bringing back this when we do the budget to ask council how you would like us to spend those dollars on what projects you'd like, because we have to have a spending plan for those.
Yes, the regulation requires that the city upon collection, that the city expends those funds within 5 years. And it's a first in, first out situation, so.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. So that would conclude the public hearing portion. May I have a motion from the council?
I'll move approval, but I do want to just make one modification on the resolution. I noticed that we are currently, well, two modifications. Clearly, we want to spell your name correctly. But second of all, I'd like us to go ahead and for our resolutions, instead of putting Ron as interim city clerk, because that wasn't a formal appointment to address the incompatible office. I think it's important we go ahead and just put him as city manager because that is his title. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole about the city clerk thing, but it'd probably just be cleaner to just put city manager.
Okay. Can I have a second on that approval with those adjustments?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
No
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. And it's approval. All right, so our next item is public comment. So every member of the public has the opportunity to address the city council for comment. You may speak to the council on any item that is not on the agenda. We cannot act on these items at this time. However, they can be referred to staff if they require follow-up. Please come to the podium, speak your name clearly, and make your comments brief. You have 5 minutes. Make sure the little green button is on.
Good evening, Harry Anderson. Where are we on this committee thing to help the city branding? The deadline to turn in applications was 6th of January. And my understanding was we were going to have some kind of an answer this year.
So I believe we were actually already supposed to have that on the end of January agenda, if I remember correctly, but then it had to get bumped because of committee assignments. And so I think we're ready to bring it back to the next agenda. The only caveat is, and is it okay if I speak to the number of applicants? We got less applicants than positions that we had opened for the role.
You're kidding.
So to your note, I was going to bring up later in the meeting tonight that I'd like to see if we could go ahead and put it out there for another week so that maybe we could fill those last couple applicant slots. That was my concern, so.
Stunned.
Right, well, bring that back in.
If it makes
Go to
you
the
feel
order.
better, you've got a
As
great
much
job.
controversy as we have over all this and not enough people applied. I think they need to go online and buy a spine. I mean, instead. Wow, amazing.
Just make sure to bring that back and go.
The other question that it seems to never get answered fully. What is the deal, Ron, with that strip of property in front of Mountain Village? Who owns that?
Well, again, that's behind the curb, which would be the curb and gutter. So that would, just with our standard sidewalk rules, it would belong to the property owner. So unless Caltrans decides to take it, decides it's theirs.
Can
That
we
should be,
just
that
take
should,
proactive-
that should officially belong to the property owner that sits behind it.
I mean, it took me 40 minutes on a Sunday to whack those two things down and rake them in a pile that you guys were gracious enough to pick up.
Right.
But I mean, that's the first thing you see when you pull up that stop sign, and poor Aaron's Colfax Bazaar thing, between the rain and the wind and everything and the bushes behind it pushing it, looks like a mutant. So
Yeah, I don't think the snow did it much good.
I just wonder if we could make that a regular part of maintenance. Since,
Well, not if we don't own it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment this evening? Yep, fantastic.
Hey, good evening. This is my first time to attend a city council meeting, and I've lived in Colfax for 40 years. So I just wanted just a brief introduction. My name is Lori Vandiver. I live off of Tokiana, not Colfax proper, but a mile out. And I consider myself a part of Colfax community. I shop here, I walk here. You may have seen me walking around. And so I have a lot of opportunities to observe. So in my travels, I've noticed some very disturbing kind of developments in Colfax. And it's dilapidated buildings. That has caused me just, I'm so dismayed that we work so hard. You work hard. We work hard. Events plan. People work out in the community. We all participate, yet these buildings are falling apart. Construction projects are being abandoned. I don't know what the problem is. Streets are neglected. There are cars parked in the streets, long-term street parking on city streets that are not registered, nor have they been. We tried to appeal to the sheriff's office to make a formal complaint about that, to no response. So it's really disheartening to come in, even as a visitor, to come make our way down into town and see the dilapidation that's occurring. Now, I realize the city doesn't have control over these properties, but you do have the power and the leverage for enforcing the current local laws, ordinances, and you do have the power to make things different. You can use that. So please use it. Please use it. I hate to see our little town deteriorate any more than it has to. I realize the buildings are old. I get it. But we need to hold these folks' feet to the fire. I mean, I really understand the expense that it requires. But that can be overrode. And I believe you guys have the power to do it. So I'll continue to monitor this. And I hope that we can start to walk around town and notice that this is happening and we're not doing anything about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Do we have any other public comment this evening? Okay, so we will close public comment, and the next item on our agenda is council and staff. So our committee reports. Sean, do you want to start us off?
I have nothing to report tonight. I went to the town hall, but I'll let you talk about it.
I remember last time I mentioned that I had several meetings in the last half of this month, and only one of them came off due to snow and various reasons, including the WACMAC, for example, that would have been here. And anyway, I am aware that I just report on the Sierra Vista Center. They again are in good shape financially. They're slowly but surely accumulating money. And they're doing all right. They have a new board. They're doing okay. And other than that, the meetings were canceled.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend our last meeting or the first of our new sessions that have started, and I'm sad to have missed it, but unfortunately due to calls. But I was able to attend PCTPA, and the good news is we were able to introduce the Small Cities Funding Act that we brought forward, which would provide additional funding to small jurisdictions for our dilapidated infrastructure. Specifically, we introduced the bill this last week. PCTPA, we authored the bill, and we were able to get two sponsors, one from LA and then our local assembly member, to go ahead and get that introduced. So that's going to be Assembly Bill 2679. It's fresh out on the floor now. It's going to be going to committee. I'll keep you guys posted on the continuous status of that bill, but as it moves forward, I think one of the things that we're probably going to be asking you guys for is letters of support from the community. just so that the assembly, especially when it's in committee, because in committee is where things, have a tendency to get chopped up, changed, or in some cases, the bills die there in committee. So we want to really push through and make sure that the voices are heard at that level as it's progressing forward before it goes forward for an actual approval vote of the legislature. That's really my big one. I did put a post up on Facebook kind of explaining, again, what that bill is. I know those of you who attend regularly are probably a little familiar based on my prior descriptions, but essentially what it does is you guys are all familiar with the gas tax. And a lot of these other funds that are meant for transportation that are handled at a state level, the distribution of those funds is typically done based on population, which ends up resulting in us getting, not a lot. I mean, we're talking 70,000 a year or less. And this would result in us getting a minimum threshold going forward of 200,000 per year, which it might not sound like a lot, or it might sound like a lot, depending on your familiarization with government budgets. But that's one block. That's paving one block of city street. And that adds up very quick for a little town like Colfax. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to be pushing it hard.
Awesome, thank you. Because yeah, we can do one block every year. It'll change very, very quickly. So we are definitely going to push that one as much as possible. So these last 2 weeks, I had a air district control meeting. We did have what we call the Heritage Park meeting, which is the project of moving the caboose and opening that park. Excited to say that they did find a engineer that's going to be able to do the studies on the ground and everything we need to be able to even start laying that track. So that is very exciting to get that process going. Had a SACOG meeting this week, and I sat in on your PCTPA today on the Zoom. The kids were running around, so I'm trying to get myself up on par with that and know everything you're up to. So it was kind of fun to watch. And that was it. All right, city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously snow. So I coordinated and performed some snow removal with staff. They did a fabulous job with that. We broke them up into shifts, so they were out there all night long and kept the roads open. They're just wonderful. In addition to that, the snow brought down a tree across some medium voltage wires at the sewer plant. Unfortunately, snapped a pole, did some damage to the other ones, and they were past the PG&E meter, so we own those. I had a contractor out today. We did a job walk and asked him to give me three quotes, one for just what it would take to get the system running, one it would take to do a full rehab, and one it would take to underground all the utilities out there for that particular area. Should be a week or two before we see that quote back. In addition to that, let me find my notes here. I spent some time with our IT contractor. We did a bunch of cleanup in the server room. Lots of things still up there that weren't being used, and cords and things like that. So got that kind of cleaned up, developing a plan, long-term plan, so we can start budgeting, updating all the IT equipment in City Hall and then outside of City Hall after that. Which brings me to, along with the maintenance and the snow plowing that the maintenance did, they're out obviously fixing potholes and stuff after the snow plowing didn't do some of our not better roads any good. And then I had our IT provider work with the courtyard. Their IT system was down. They had no computer, no internet, anything, and that's all up and running again. And that's it.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I can definitely say that our public works and you and our wastewater guys worked round the clock and made sure everything stayed up and running. And it was several people acknowledged that it definitely seemed that we were on top of it. There were compliments that they heard the snow plows at 4 o'clock in the morning. So they were well appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so council business. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
Just want to make a comment. The upper end of Depot Street seems to be off the radar for the workers and the plows. And that street is literally falling apart. So nobody could get down that street if they didn't have 4-wheel drive. It didn't get plowed at all over the whole storm. So it doesn't end at the top of the slope there. It goes on another block. So please.
Larry, just to respond to that real quick, one of the things that I half jokingly brought up to Ron about us, jury rigging something, because we're not exactly made of money, but something I did want us to follow up on was as it relates to snow, we don't tend to, on a frequent basis, have a lot of accumulation. But we do tend to have, sort of that small level that sticks. And then when we do have to plow it, it causes damage. So what I had brought up was, looking into a brine pump or contracting with somebody for brining the streets when we're expecting, small amount of accumulation. Because if we can brine that street, we can avoid the need to bring the plow over it. We can keep the snow from sticking in the first place. And we can at least kind of save ourselves some of the damage. It's not a for sure, we'd have to look into it more, but I think it could potentially spare us a lot of headache in the future.
Sounds like a plan to look into if it's gonna be easier on the road.
It's
So
but it's just worth looking
Yeah.
into.
we can investigate. All right, so council business. So the first item on our council business this evening is the recap from the town hall meeting that we did hold on February 12th. In our notes, we basically have a list of different suggestions that were given out by the different council members who attended. Some of the projects are definitely larger, long-term, bigger funding projects, but there are quite a few that are smaller projects as well, that would fit within, spending that we have now. So I love it when my brain goes completely sideways because I'm reading. We can go through this list. I don't know, Trinity, if you had a chance to browse through it earlier. If anybody wanted to add anything to it, they could. Now that we have this list, what I would like to do is for all the council members to be able to look at it and kind of prioritize, go through the whole list and make their own list of what they would like to see prioritized. But also keep in mind, we have small funding ones and very, very large long-term projects. And so we need to have it separated into two separate categories. Obviously, the smaller projects we can get done first. So if I could ask our council members when they have time to go through this list and number them, make two separate lists, long-term and short-term, and then we can bring them back and we will do a lot of this decisions as to which ones to do when we do our budget talks and go from there. In addition to that, the one thing I was going to propose, well, for me, I really wanted it to be a full council event so that our community could speak to all of us. Without a doubt, we can be more free in how that conversation goes and a lot more organic if there was only two of us there. So I wanted to talk to you guys and see, would you like to do it with only two council members and we can rotate who the second one is if we wanted to? And that will allow a little bit more free flow conversation, or do we want to stick with it within a set agenda and keep more of us here?
So if there's only two of you, then the Brown Act doesn't apply. But if there's three, you have a quorum, then it has to be notified publicly, then all the Brown Act rules apply to that. So if you just did two at a time and you didn't discuss with the others.
So it's conversation to have. Do we want to be able to have it as a very, very free flow meeting, which means it will only be two council members and it can, run pretty much the gamut of anything, or do we want to stick with an agendized topic and have most of us here?
Can I ask what difficulties you guys ran into the last time? Because I mean, honestly, when you set it up in an open format agenda, there's really a lot of leeway to the scope you can discuss, but you just can't make any decisions you kind of have your hands tied the same way, whether it's 2 or 5, you still don't get to make any decisions. So I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
curious.
definitely not decisions, and I'm going to turn that answer over to you.
Yeah, what do you
because-
guys run into?
Because for what my dream is a lot more of a free flow conversation back and forth and with anything that anybody wants to bring up and how we've got it set when it is an agendized meeting. It has to have a topic. We got to try to keep things relatively centered around whatever that topic is the way you've explained it to me.
Yeah, that was my recommendation to the mayor and the city manager when they were preparing the agenda is the Brown Act requires you to have a topic and the topic can't be any topic within the city's jurisdiction. But my other recommendation was to set an agenda item for picking the next agenda item, and that gives the public a chance to say, hey, we would like to talk to our representatives about X, Y, and Z, and then the council who's present can pick among those topics and set the next agenda. So
really it's up to you guys. If you think it would be more useful to have us all there or just do two with a little bit more free flow behind it.
I'd like to see us all be there and that this be totally transparent. You know, the public can all come. It's not a small meeting. So I would prefer it to be open to all and agendized then.
Yeah, because at any time, any two of us could still do a town hall meeting because by its nature, it doesn't have to be noticed in the same format and all that. I think to meet the spirit of it, I like Connor's suggestion regarding, taking items in advance and, putting them down. One thing we could do to kind of bridge the gap between those two is we can take comments during, one meeting for the next meeting. But perhaps much like how we accept public comment online, maybe we set up a specific inbox and then any topics people have thrown in advance, by the time the deadline cutoff is for setting the agenda, we can just include those topics as items and, go from there. Because I mean, until we have a difficulty with the format of the meeting, I like the idea of us all being there. And then if we need to adjust accordingly from there, then
Sean, you got any opinion?
I think I like having us all there.
All right, so at that point, I will open this up for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on the meeting, anything, how it went down, what they would like to see in the future, now is your opportunity.
Harry Anderson again. Sorry I didn't get to come to the town hall meeting. Got sick as hell. It's terrible. One of the things, because I've done a lot of business with the town business people, and asked them to get involved more, come to meetings and, say what you want to say. They're afraid because they're afraid of blowback. So my suggestion would be to consider maybe encourage an anonymous, somehow they can send in, push that more written on the website, something, so that they can actually say, because they want to say a lot, but they're terrified. And that's not a good position for us to be in, for the business people being afraid to want to speak, and it's not all bad. They just want to be able to say something, but they're afraid. So somehow, if y'all could come up with a way to get them to be able to have their say, much like voting, that's amazing what happens when they can vote and nobody knows what they voted on. Get a pretty good turnout for that. But I would really like to see our businesses feel confident to help manage the city, but leaving it to your best guess of what they need, and then they're mad and then they don't want to talk about it. Well, it's like, well, there's got to be a way to bridge that gap. So that's my idea.
Do we have any other public comment on this item? Come on up, Tim.
real quick, if it's okay, I'll just remind the public, you guys can send written comments before any meeting via email. There's no requirement that you put your name on it. You are totally allowed to send anonymous written comments in. It won't say it's from you unless you say it's from you or we recognize your email address, but there are ways to send in anonymous. It just doesn't help us a lot with trying to get to the bottom of how we can better serve the town. So if you can own your words, it does help us.
Hi, Tim Ryan. I like your idea of having all the council members there. I do realize, though, that you guys, with all of your committees and 2 council meetings a month, I was wondering if it's a possibility to maybe alternate this town hall meeting with a council meeting, just so you guys are not, I don't want to see burnout. And I mean, that can happen. And I would just like to make that suggestion anyway, to see if that can be done. Like I say, I know you guys put in a lot of time with your other committee meetings, let alone just this. And then the other thing, concerning the Brown Act, is that with the Brown Act, you cannot make decisions with more than two people? Is that what I'm understanding?
You can't deliberate,
Okay,
so you can't talk about it. Is the problem.
so, but you can give out, if you have the whole group here, information. And what I'm thinking of is there's talk about the roads, if people understand that what we can do here as a city with having Caltrans, well, that's their jurisdiction. County, that's their jurisdiction. So can you be informing the residents when they do bring up an issue like that? I mean, it could even be, oh, well, it's what was just mentioned earlier about cleaning out this little place over here or something. Well, apparently that's owned by someone else and we don't have the authority. So can that information be brought up at the town meetings without hurting the Brown Act?
So Tim, the fine line is that the Brown Act's requirements are basically, the spirit of the law is that they do not want us to come to conclusions that are going to have a final decision.
Right.
If we did not tell the public that, hey, we are going to discuss this topic and come to a decision.
Correct.
And so as long as we have an agenda that says, hey, public, we plan to discuss this topic, and we either A, are going to consider a resolution tonight, or B, this is going to be a discussion and workshop only, then that will determine the scope of conversation that we can have.
Mhm.
So if it does not have a vote on the agenda, we shouldn't vote on it.
Correct.
But if it is not on the agenda at all, and it is something within our jurisdiction where we could be making a decision that would influence policy, we're not supposed to have a back and forth conversation. We can inform.
Right.
You can inform us,
Right.
but we cannot deliberate and talk about our opinions on how we should get it done, et cetera, because it wasn't on the agenda for the public to know, oh, I should have shown up and participated because I felt strongly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the spirit. So if all five of us are here,
Okay.
we have to follow those rules because it's
Sure.
assumed that there will be some form of deliberation. But if it's only two of us, then it's assumed we're incapable of a full deliberation because there isn't a majority of council present. So even if the two
Yeah.
people discuss their opinions, it's not enough to influence a final decision.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I'm just thinking that with the town hall meeting, it would be more information that you're giving out, no resolutions, no voting or anything like that. It was just like what was brought up earlier about the possibility of these buildings that are falling apart. And the question was asked, look, I know that the city does not have control over each building completely, but an answer could be, well, what control do you have? And I'm wondering if just that information can come out at the town hall meetings. And it might draw more people. So just a thought on that. And I wish there were more people that came out. I'm not sure what Harry says, that everybody's so afraid to come in here. I don't understand that, what their fear is. But boy, when you're paying taxes and you belong to this city, you should have no fear to come in and say what you need to say and get things resolved and moving. And the other thing too is maybe you should serve ice cream. I think there's more people at the ice cream shop than there is here. Thank you, guys.
Pizza party Thursdays.
There you go. Pizza Party Thursdays. I like it. All right. Do we have any other public comment in regards to the town halls? All right, we will move on. Our next one is April 9th. Is that what it was?
Did you need staff direction of any kind out of it?
Nope,
So that's
really the directions to you guys to be able to prioritize, we say big projects, little projects, prioritize them. And then when we do our budget talks, we'll be able to put those into action.
So quick question, just because it relates to this specific topic, maybe we could consider Tim's comment and just keep in mind that Loomis only has their city council meetings once a month. And if we wanted to reformat, I don't think that's the worst idea. Maybe it's something to mull on.
I think my only concern with that one is we wouldn't be able to pre-schedule them because so much stuff comes up last minute that ends up on our agendas. I think that would be my only
Yeah,
thing to ponder right there is,
I think there's a lot to ponder.
yeah, there is a lot to ponder. I think it's definitely a possibility, but that's also why, you know, I only put it in there for every other month. So it wasn't hopefully too much to add to our schedules. So we can keep pondering it.
I
Okay.
think we could deal with that partly by making the meetings quarterly, for example. So having 4 a year instead of 6, or even every 4 months, I'm not sure. I believe that if we behind the dais here handle these meetings properly, it'll be, if we build it, they will come. You know, people will come if we respond to them in a way that makes them confident. And it's something I think we can build. And this was just the first one. But maybe every other month is too often. That's just my thinking.
We'll just have to kick it around and see if our attendance builds or not and go from there. So adjust it on the fly when we need to. All right, thank you guys for your input. We appreciate it. The next item of council business this evening is a discussion of a resolution approving a funding request from the Historic Colfax Downtown Association. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight we have Erin Newington here from Historic Colfax Downtown Association. And she's here tonight to request a $5,000 donation in support of summer concert series. Erin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me on the agenda. My name is Erin Newington. I'm with the Historic Colfax Downtown Association. And before I talk about funding, I wanted to talk about something bigger. I want to talk about what happens when a town starts believing in itself. Last year, we pursued the Levitt AMP grant, and something shifted in Colfax. We competed against cities 100 times our size. We ultimately did not win the grant, but we won something else. We watched a light switch on in this town. People believed again. That belief created momentum, and we're here tonight to ask to help keep that win moving forward. So I'm here to talk about the summer concert series and why it matters. At its core, it creates what I call a circle of impact. It delivers 3 outcomes: community, economic activation, and momentum. And I'd like to share how we are intentionally building each. 1, community. The concerts bring families together, kids dancing, neighbors connecting. It's a multi-generational event. These are free events. They're intentionally free because our mission is not to profit from these events. It's to create access and drive people to downtown. We intentionally stay away from heavy vendor booth rentals. We try not to bring food trucks in. Why? Because our goal is to send people into our brick and mortar businesses, not compete with them. That is an economic strategy, not lost revenue. 2, economic activation. This is where our organization is different. Most nonprofits produce an event to raise money for their mission. Our mission is economic activation. Through our Visit Historic Colfax platform, we promote this town daily, on average 7 times a week. In the last year alone, we've had over 1 million views on our profiles, more than 21,000 interactions and shares, and have generated thousands and thousands of comments. That visibly drives traffic. The Colfax Bazaar is a perfect example. We partnered with the Fruit Exchange building, a building that's been largely dormant for years. Through repeated activation and consistent foot traffic, the owner is now preparing to announce a brand new business launching in one of the units. That's return on investment. And in our first year launching the bazaar, we were recently featured in the SF Gate article about Colfax, which was a huge win for us. For a town of 2,200 people, that level of regional visibility is significant. That kind of exposure drives visitors. Visitors drive overnight stays. Overnight stays generates TOT revenue. That's economic development. And the summer concert series operates on the same model, creating energy, driving traffic, increasing visibility, and generating measurable economic impact. 3, momentum. The seed money that the city provided last August of $5,000 was used exactly as intended, not for staff. We are 100% a volunteer organization. It went towards promotion and advertising, photography and videography. We launched 2 new Colfax bazaars. We produced the Rock the Vote concert that helped position us as a Levitt AMP finalist. And it launched the new Brews and Grooves concert. It allowed us to buy things like stage awning, signage, and banners that we use for multiple events. And those investments continued to keep working. In fact, one quote in the Colfax record said, "Our most recent concert brought the most energy downtown has seen in years." We are grateful for the initial seed funding, and we treated it as a responsibility, stretching every dollar to meaningful, measurable value back to the city of Colfax. The summer concert series is the next phase of that momentum. It builds on the infrastructure we've already invested, the audience we've already activated, and the model we've already proven. This request isn't about starting something new. It's about scaling what's already working, and that's momentum. Now, I know a natural question for you is, have you fully fundraised for this before you came to the city? We are actively fundraising. We have fundraising events coming at the Red Frog in April. We've launched sponsorship packages and are actively meeting with partners. We've created a Colfax Music Fund that the public is actively contributing to. We've applied for multiple grants, and we are seeking Placer County level support as well. Because we approach funding responsibly, we equally are disciplined in how we budget. So we do have a budget. And most importantly, we have a responsible budgeting model. We operate on a tiered system. The baseline covers fixed essential costs like sound, staging, production, and permits. Talent scales based on confirmed fundraising. That means the series is always viable. The only difference is the level of band that we could bring in. We are fully volunteer run, as I mentioned, and we have no paid staff members. And we keep our administrative costs very minimal. So we're not structured like a traditional nonprofit. We're structured as an economic activation partner. City support does not replace fundraising. It multiplies it. So we are requesting $5,000, not to fund an event, but to reinforce momentum that's already moving, to help stabilize production costs so that private fundraising can elevate talent, to continue activating downtown spaces, to continue generating visibility, to continue building belief. So there's 2 versions of summer in Colfax. One where downtown is quiet, and one where music fills the park, businesses feel the lift, dormant buildings wake up, and people believe again. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Erin. Do we have any comments from the public first? No? Okay. Council, do we have any questions, comments that you'd like to make?
How much were you able to fundraise so far this year?
We have a sponsorship that is secured, and we've raised several hundred thousand. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Several $100s through our community fund. And we've written probably $10,000 in grant requests. We hear back probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks on those.
I've always believed in music, and music will bring more people to town than I think anything else that we do, especially when it's continuing. It's not just a one-time thing. And I attended the one that we had, and I found it was amazing. You know, there was hundreds of people there, and there was kids, and there was dogs, and it was all very local, and there was a lot of people there that I'd never seen before. And I believe music is the way forward. I would advocate that we add music even, and we did this last time to a couple of our events. Music works. But I really believe in this. I had another question. And again, I want to comment on the continuing. You know, it continues, and it's family oriented, and it was just a wholesome thing. I know that you had, it was free. which makes it a lot simpler to manage, I think. People can come and there's nothing to hold back. And I noticed that there was at least a 40-foot long line at the beer and wine bar.
Yep,
The whole time it was open.
right.
You know, the line was long.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you can improve on that. But that is also seed money, is it not?
It is definitely in our budget as something that will be reinvested back into the next event. So yes, that is part of the fundraising.
So you have a pretty good idea how much that raised
Yep.
and how much it will raise.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking into different forms of music.
We are looking into different forms of music. The big thing about the fundraising piece is we can do this. We want to set our vision really big, because we really feel like if we bring in regional bands or something where the same old band isn't always playing at the location, something very marketable, it'll bring in even more money. Because when we did the Brews and Grooves concert, we were clearly overwhelmed by how many people showed up, and we ran out of beer 3 times, and we just didn't anticipate getting that much success. And I just know that if we can do that on one event, having a series and having continual music coming once a month to Colfax, we can make it even bigger. Especially if we can when we raise the money to afford a well-known band that will bring their own crowd.
I think that's one of the things I've learned from all the festivals that I go to. It's all the decent bands bring their own crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And you can count on that, whether or not the locals come. But this is a case where your group built it and the people came.
And the thing that I'm proud of, we just recently did an event with the museum, and we polled the people that came to town. We sold out 2 rooms for a historic live event. And the majority of the people that were surveyed went to downtown and frequented the businesses. And that really is our ultimate goal. Do we want to have the locals there? Of course we do, but we want just as many visitors as well. And we would be drawing from Alta, Dutch Flat, Weimar, Meta Vista, Auburn, even Sacramento. We had a lot of people come to Brews and Grooves that were from out of the area.
I think the fullest I ever saw this town is we had a local guitar maker that was well known, and he'd made guitars for people all over the country. And he passed away. I think it was one of those aorta explosions, or anyway, it killed him instantly. But all the people that he'd sold guitars to came to this town to perform. And every single place that could hold musicians was full of people. You know, it was amazing. And I can see something like that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
we could definitely amplify the result we got. Now we're getting, this was a new event for us. So everything that we launched last year was a brand new event to Colfax. And so anytime you launch a new event, there's an incredible amount of momentum that you need to do in order to get people to believe that that event is worthy of attending. And so we feel like we have that model down for these concerts, and we do feel we can build on it.
And just to summarize my own thoughts, I see this as an investment, not an expense to the city.
And another thing I might add is some of the feedback we've had on our bazaar is one of the local restaurant owners told us, and which is it's the biggest win. Yes, we filled the town, and yes, there was a ton of people that had never been to Colfax. But when you tell us that you've tripled your sales that day and they're profusely thankful for it, that's everything. The whole reason why we're doing what we're doing. It's really not about profiting from the event. That's why we make sure they're all free.
Thanks.
So one of the things that you said was that you didn't want to bring in vendors and food trucks because you feel that it takes away from the downtown businesses. And I understand that what could be perceived as a conflict. However, those vendors are who help pay you the bills. And for most of the events, if you talk to a good portion of the business owners, they will tell you they are just as busy, if not more so, on those events. And I think the city should absolutely support the events. I think it's fantastic, but I also don't think we are supposed to be funding them. So I think there is a big difference when you say, we've raised a couple $100. We're not going to bring in the people that would actually help us pay the bills, but here, can we please have $5,000? I see that as a conflict because those avenues are tested and true as to how to help pay the bills, and putting that amount of responsibility on the city and the taxpayers, I don't think that's right.
I look at this, and if you look at the line item for the fund, it's actually economic development line item. That's how it's described in your budget. And I don't look at this as an event. I look at this as an activation for downtown. I too have talked to several business owners all down the boulevard or the Main Street, and I have different feedback from them. They tell me that they don't have people come in and frequent their businesses like they do on a regular business day, and that all of the traffic gets directed to these vendors. And it takes away because their regular business customers don't come to the to Main Street because it's closed down and there's a big event. And so they just decide to come a different day. So I would have to disagree with that. But I think that our whole goal is to get people in those businesses and have them spend their money there. One of the things that we are working on is the problem with the concerts, or one of the struggles, is that we need mobile food. Nobody's going to go to a concert and then want to go sit in a restaurant and have dinner. And so one of the things that we're working on with the business owners is how can we create mobile food stations for you at our events, where you have your little iPad and your order station and you're taking orders at the booth, but you have a runner that's running the food from your restaurant. Because the whole goal is that our business owners win that day, not pay for the event. The event is an economic activation event that's designed to put money in those pockets of those business owners that don't have enough traffic to their storefront. And so if we can design the event in a way where we can go out and get sponsorship money, or have the city see that there is a true return on investment for these funds, I think overall it's Colfax wins, the business owners win. So it's more than just funding an event.
So a question I just thought of while you were speaking, how many of the business owners outside of the food have you spoken to about staying open late? Because I'm going to imagine you're doing the concerts in the evening, and most of those other businesses are all closed by 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
So,
we coordinate with those business owners to be open.
so I mean,
Whether
if
they
they
choose,
committed to being open so that they can reap the benefit of that as well.
some have, yes, some, you can only offer the opportunity, right? Same with the mobile food idea with the businesses. Some of them have expressed that might be too much work, and that's okay. We offered you the opportunity before we sold it to a food truck. And we hope that we could figure out a way to convince them what opportunity that is for them. And some of them are definitely coming around. I think sometimes you have to not convince people, but show them that it's going to work. When our food truck, one of the food trucks that were actually there at the concert, they actually sold out of their food. And she says, I've never in any event in Colfax sold out of food. And so I want that to happen for our restaurant owners. I don't want it to happen for an outside business that we're bringing in. So does that mean that we're giving up revenue and we'll have to fundraise in a different way? Yeah. But it's meeting our mission, and that's to bring revenue to City of Colfax.
I'm really supportive of providing a little bit of funds. I just don't think the city should be your primary funding source.
I
So
never
that's
said
why I
that the Cindy was.
No, but with what you already have at this point, that's what you're asking. So that's why I said that.
The city is going to help us with the baseline of expenses so that we could go out and reserve some of these bands and such. Like I said, we have thousands and thousands of dollars of grant money that we are likely going to get to help fund this. A minimum, a concert is going to cost us $3,000 to $4,000. So $1,000 is a wonderful help head start, but that's just a fourth of what we need to raise to make it happen. And so I get what you're saying, but I would hope that you guys would look at this as a return on investment for city dollars rather than just an event, because it's a 5-month concert series that brings hundreds of people downtown. And it's a buildable event where we can involve other nonprofits as well.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions or comments from the council?
I just had a quick question for staff. Do we have a number on our current fund balance?
Yes, Councilmember, we have spent 12,643.34 out of the 30,000, gives us a remaining of 17,356.
That's higher than what we looked at earlier today.
It's a sheet.
I thought you showed me 12,000.
We've spent 12,000.
Oh, okay. By the way, that is because of Sean's kick-ass work with Winterfest, and we didn't have to take a single dime out of it for Winterfest. So I just want to
That's
acknowledge
awesome.
the reason there's so much money in there right now is because of all his efforts.
Thank you.
Well, and the reason I ask is because I know, we're gonna obviously have our budget workshops
Yep.
coming up this summer and, with us talking about the whole Colfax Community Foundation and trying to restructure the way that we look at nonprofit funding. Regardless of what happens with this tonight, this fund may cease to exist or maybe, diminished from what it was before due to that restructuring. And so I just want to bring that up as something on everyone's mind as we're, talking about this because, it has become sort of a more popular place for people to look for funding. And I don't want anyone to, see us go through what we go through tonight and think, oh, I've got a great idea. I'm going to come to the city and then ultimately end up finding out, oh no, that fund's no longer there. Not that we're looking to stop funding community programs. We're just looking at a couple different avenues to do it going forward. So.
Sure. And when I looked at
Bring
the
up that
budget,
disclosure.
we have a very small town. We have a very small budget. There's not a budget line item to market the city or do any of that. And so we really pick up a lot of that heavy lifting, I would say. And so I would just say, yes, we are technically a nonprofit, but we do feel that we're an economic activation partner as well. And so again, I would just go back to our whole model is designed to give a return to the city.
All right. If we don't have any more comments or questions, do we have any motions?
Did we go to public yet?
And we did that first.
Oh.
We did public opportunity first.
I saw very, like this.
Yeah, so I mean, we opened it for public comment prior to the council conversation.
Don't we usually do it after the presentation?
On the paperwork, it actually says public first usually, so.
Oh, okay.
But if you guys want me to open it to the public, we can again.
It's your show.
It
Okay.
would make sense.
Okay, Terry, did you have something else you wanted to say? We'll open the public comment version of it again? No? No, okay.
Okay.
Back to you guys for comment, question, or motion.
Seems like we have, over the last year, the 2 years, that the money that we've given out to nonprofits has been a major benefit, I think. Even some of the smaller ones, like putting music into the farmer's market. And we got a new business because of that. This person that was there selling ice cream now has a brick and mortar business. I think it's a good use of money. We've only spent 12,000 out of the 30 that we budgeted. Next year's budget is a whole different deal, but it seems like we have adequate funds. And I'd like to move that we give the $5,000 for this investment.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. And I'm going to oppose it, so we're good, but it passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful and we'll bring it back tenfold.
Right, so moving on, item next is our good of the order because we're just about done for the night. So,
No, let's go home.
okay, Sean says go home. All right.
I second that.
Okay, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here is what Sean says. So Larry, you got anything for good of the order?
One's a quick question. When do we start our budgeting process? When will that be on the agenda?
Katrina's working on a schedule right now. We'll be bringing that at the next budget or at the next council meeting while we discuss the mid-year budget.
And just comment again on our audit. I mean, our community took in a lot more money than we spent last year, which is a really good thing. So that was one comment. Another one was regarding the mitigations. We've built up a number of funds, but the one that we've built up for roads is pretty tiny. And it seems to me that going forward, as we start budgeting, we are no longer eligible for those community grants because our median income in this town went up too high. And I think we should start putting aside money for street repair. Some nominal amount of money that we can agree to, and we put it directly into that fund. And that we also visit the idea of where do those fees come from? In other words, where does the fee come from for the roads account? I'd like us to take a look at that because we have a whole lot more money set aside for park and recreation, which is a good thing. We've never spent any money on it, to my knowledge, than we do for our streets. And I think we need to get that back in line, whatever that means. So that's something that I would like to bring up in the future when we start in on our budget. And let's see. That was it.
I just had a couple things, two ordinance items that I'm hoping that we can bring onto a future agenda. That we've already talked about before. They're not new. They're just things that have gone stale. I had brought up after the Snowmageddon that I was hoping we could put together a hazard mitigation plan ordinance so that our private road associations in the city of Colfax, we could have a set calendar schedule for them to provide hazard mitigation plans for, snow removal, et cetera, and then place agreements in advance so that if they do need the city to help with that snow clearing or, whatever the situation may be, that we are enabled to provide those services and we don't have to go through setting new agreements or going to our insurance and getting permission. It's already in place. And then that way too, they, are on a schedule of communication with us on a regular basis so that we know that they're actively maintaining that part of the community for emergency services to be able to do their job and for us to be able to do our job in the city. And then the other item that I was hoping we could bring back up into discussion was the I-80 hazard drivers ordinance that I'd brought up. This was specific to a lot of the issues we've been having with truckers, not stopping at brake checks and having overheating brakes. We had discussed potentially working with the county to put an ordinance in place at both the county level and the city level so that we could place fines that help to recover some of the costs of the response to those type of incidents. So I'd like to bring that back up for discussion, but I did let Ron know in advance of the meeting that I will send over policy memos for these so that staff doesn't have to put together, a bunch of mumbo jumbo. We'll have something to start picking at. And then, sometimes it's easier to have that conversation if you've already got a draft to criticize. So I'll put that together if we can get those on the agenda after I send them.
I'm a pretty old person. Am I allowed to forget? I was going to bring up something and I forgot. We spoke a couple of months ago about litter and the idea, the notion that some of the people selling food to go would help mitigate all the litter that gets picked up and created. And it just didn't go anywhere. I remember we discussed it and it just kind of disappeared and went up in smoke. And I just wondered what happened. Does anybody remember?
I know I did a bunch of research on it on some other communities that have tried it, and it was a dismal failure because very little of the litter actually came from the businesses that were targeted. And so it didn't pan out the way anybody was looking at it to do.
Yeah.
And I remember I did a whole bunch of internet research on it and whatnot to see what came out of it. And I don't remember finding anybody that it worked with.
I would just like to see it come back before council and would very much appreciate what you learn because that's part of the input we need. But I hate for things to come up and then just disappear somehow.
There's a lot of
if it
pushback.
disappears, the council shall make it disappear.
We did, because there was a lot of pushback from businesses too. We looked at all the other examples. We got a lot of feedback from businesses and basically every business that we talked to did not want us to implement that.
And
Let's do it as a council.
well, and to be clear, that proposal I brought up was kind of rage bait, if I'm just being honest. The whole point of it was for us to start looking at alternate methods of revenue generation to address some of these issues. So I went ahead and threw it out there so that, again, you have something to criticize, it gets the wheels turning. And so, yes, we did get a lot of pushback. People really were not happy with the idea of, having a litter impact fee tacked onto receipts. But if there are other concepts that we can take from that idea that maybe are creative thinking to help fund road mitigation, I think that'd be great to bring back up.
I'd like us as a council to say yes or no, that's all.
Yeah.
To go back to Trinity's thing, so here's my question for you. Bringing up this hazard mitigation, especially because I do remember all the conversations after Snowmageddon and whatnot. Isn't it really on those communities to pursue that? I mean, they are the ones that are supposed to be setting that up, the two different HOA communities that we have and the businesses that have that. And I understand wanting to be able to support them because they are our community members, but also that is their responsibility to do that. So coming to the city in the midst of what we're dealing with, that's definitely not something that works. So I'm just curious as to, because you did bring this up several years ago, why they didn't follow through and go any further to try to make those arrangements with the city.
So basically what happened, it was bad timing between staff turnover. We had Mick retire, we had Wes move on. We had new initiatives, we had new council members. And so it really just was not the most hot topic we needed to be addressing at that time. But for all intents and purposes, I think the key point there was the intention was that they would pay for those services. It's not that the city would be absorbing it without any kind of tax cost, recovery there. There would be cost recovery involved, but it would be creating an expectation of communication and a mechanism for that cost recovery so that it's not a he said, she said, now we're doing code enforcement kind of thing. Instead, it's, a prearranged system where, we have this open line of communication, we've got a protocol, and it helps us with our hazard mitigation plans. Because right now our current processes are abysmal as far as documentation. So that's not great. It's really just formalizing that in a way that makes it very simple, easy, and allows us to proceed with, if, for example, they make the decision that they want it to come through the tax rolls, makes it very easy for us to go ahead and have that invoice addressed through the tax rolls as opposed to sending a bill to the Road Owners Association. But I would say, on the flip side of that, while these specific communities are responsible for, maintaining those road associations, the city had a certain responsibility when we allowed these developers to create these in the first place, and we were negligent at that time. And it has resulted in several somewhat abandoned streets within the community. And we did go through a survey of those sort of abandoned areas where no one really takes responsibility. And so this would be also trying to help address that and kind of get that taken care of so that we don't have any interruption of municipal service or any other franchise service such as garbage collection, emergency services, etc.
So some of these developments weren't built to city code, so I'm not sure where the city's responsibility is in that. Our responsibility was to accept it if you built it to code and not accept it if you didn't. And then and make you change it if you wanted to become part of the city to build it to code.
I'm not talking about the building, I'm talking about the actual,
The streets.
formulation and maintenance of
Yeah.
the road association. They were supposed to provide the incorporation for the road associations at the time that they filed to do this work. And some of them never actually filed that paperwork or provided it to the city, and we still accepted. So that was part of the problem was, poor paperwork management. And it is what it is now. We just have to try to find a way to make it work so that the current citizens aren't punished for the mistakes of the past. And that's really what it comes down to, is we don't want our elderly in the community, our, impoverished people in the community to be punished for things and decisions that happened 50 years before they even lived here or before they had any input.
And just to clarify for the public, if they haven't completely followed along with what we're discussing, we have several roads in the community that are private roads. The city is not responsible for any of the maintenance on them whatsoever, in addition to having, I think it's just the two HOA communities
And HUD.
and HUD that are specifically designed for those areas to maintain. We don't take care of the sewer. We don't take care of the roads. We don't take care of any of that stuff. It's all on them. And periodically when we have this snow, all of a sudden they call and ask us to come snow plow. And one, their taxes aren't paying for that. And two, it's the liability issue. If our snow plows go in there and something happens, then they can come after the city, even though there's no agreement. Yeah, well, on that, and we're not authorized. We can't spend our money on those streets because they're not ours, is the short version of it. So that's what that all has to do with. So for my good of the order, just remember there's a lot of things that are going on in our community. Both the VFW has their St. Patrick's Day dinner coming up. The Green Machine is doing a Cajun dinner. Those are both on the 14th, and I believe they both have tickets still available. And the Lions participate in the Celebrity Chef Cook-Off, which is on the 12th, which you can go to as well. So, all right, Connor, got anything fun?
No, nothing from me. Thanks.
Ron?
Just excited talking with Peggy at UP about the big boy coming.
It's gonna be Sunday, April 12th is when the big boy will be here. Random tidbit of information I learned today. When they built it in 1941, the amount of money they spent on it, if you translated it into $25, it was $5.8 million is how much that machine bought. And they will not release how much it costs to rebuild it. People have tried for years to find out how much money they put into rebuilding that thing, and it is very hush. Yeah. So, all right, with that, we are adjourned. I'm sorry. Public comment on our good of the order. I apologize. Does anybody want to say anything? On what we said for good of the order? On just what we said right here at the end? At the end.
Any of those topics we brought up.
All right. I will wear my Kevlar. So thank you very much.